Mayor Jacques, Mayor Gilbert, which one do you prefer?
Either way, Jacques is fine.
Jacques is fine. All right. Well, Jacques, just wanted to pull you in here today, and me and Ben wanted to talk to you and kind of get your perspective of kind of your upbringing and your position from Apex native, which in today's day and age is pretty rare. I mean, Ben is North Carolinian native, but you're actually not born in Apex, born in...
I was actually born in Lynchburg, Virginia, and moved to Durham when I was 7.
Okay.
And then moved to Apex when I was 12.
Right.
But I consider myself an Apex.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because at that time, like, Apex was just tobacco farms. I mean, it was downtown. Nobody really went downtown. There was a few shops down there. You go get a soda, ice cream float.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found I can maybe count how many people who have been born and raised in Apex on both my hands that I've met. You know, everyone's from New York or Pennsylvania or Jersey. So just how you've been able to watch it grow from that town of Apex to now, it's like some people might even call it little New York or something like that. You know, 50,000 people. And so we'd love to get your perspective on that, and also what you see Apex going forward as. You know, what is Apex 10 years from now? And so we just love to talk with you about that. And so if you wouldn't mind, for people who don't know you, just what was your past? Who was Jacques Gilbert before he was Mayor Jacques Gilbert?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. But I would say it is a proud moment to be sitting in the mayor's seat and asking me the question, who was Jacques Gilbert prior to that? If I would have had a crystal ball and someone presented that crystal ball and said, you will become the mayor of Apex in 2019, I would have said, you out of your mind. There was no way possible. I was a shy kid from an area called Justice Heights. And Justice Heights was the area in town, predominantly black community. There was a lot going on there. And what I mean a lot going on, there was a lot of criminal activity. A lot of my family members were involved with that. But I knew I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to just do something different. But I just didn't know how and what that would be. And again, my destiny, you know, just like every young black kid that's trying to get out of a place they don't want to be at and change their lives. I thought it was going to be sports. I thought I was going to become the next NBA star out of Apex, you know, and that just didn't work out. And I was just trying to find my next thing. I was waiting for someone to come and say, this is what you're supposed to do. This is your thing. But it just didn't happen. But I knew I wanted to be a part of, like, giving people hope. That always stood out to me. But I was, again, a shy kid. I didn't have the confidence to do that until, you know, an idea was presented by a young friend of mine, and he said, why don't you consider becoming a police officer? And of course, that was against the grain in my community, but I decided to do it. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. It gave me more confidence because you had to get out there and work with people. You can't be a shy police officer because everything about that is engaging people. And so I did that, and you know, it just, one thing built on the heels of another, and I just gained more confidence and working with people, and here I am today. The part about me leaving policing and going into politics, as I said before, there were two things I said in life I would never do, and that was become a police officer or get into politics.
Here you are.
Here I am.
Both. At the highest level.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But what I learned by that is, you know, all the skills, all the experiences I gained as a police officer, man, I can transition that into becoming, you know, a person leading a community, the community that I was born and raised in, the community that I love, Apex, North Carolina. Population back then, there was a sign that said, welcome to Apex, population 3,500, and now we're at 73,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, it's a dream come true of like, man, I never saw this at all. But another thing to point out is something I really never set out to do. I just stayed in the moment, stayed in assignment, and just let it come. I was always that person that said, I'm going to do something, but I just didn't know what it was. And here I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a common theme there from even when you were young, wanting to help others, right, and improve the situation. And so maybe you didn't know that becoming a police officer would be that, like, give you that reward, and becoming mayor's even better, you know, and you're just, you're going into places where, you know, for lack of better term, like God has put you in those situations, right? Your higher power steering you to go help people.
That's right.
So that sounds like that's one of your core values, and you've acted on it.
And that's interesting. You said, and God is my source, by the way. And it's just like showing up. Just show up, and then just be who you are.
Yeah.
And before, I would say, when I started out this journey as a police officer, I was trying to fit in. I was trying to fit a mold of what a police officer should be, and this is what the world says a police officer should be. And I was like, no, I'm just going to be Jacques. And people really like, that's a cool guy. I was like, I don't want you to look at the uniform. I want you to see Jacques. The uniform is a uniform. It's an assignment. But I want you to see the real guy in the uniform. And then when I decided to run for mayor, that was my thing. I just want to be Jacques. And
it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
And as a police officer, I never looked at a person's, where they were from, their political background. I just showed up to the call. Like, if you called me, I'm coming. That's the same thing here with the mayor role. I'm not looking at all those things. I just want to meet people where they are, and whatever the situation is, I want to try to help.
That's awesome. I just looking into you before we had the interview, just seemed like your message all around your campaign was unity. It was a nonpartisan, just, I'm not here for them or for them. I'm here for everyone.
That's right.
And that really called people to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was approached by 2 different groups, and they both indicated to me, we want to carry you. We want to be a part of your campaign and endorse you. And I said, thanks, but no thanks.
Nice.
Let's just try this.
I
just want to try this on my own and see what happens. And it's really worked out well. And I want to keep it that way for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like going back to, you talking about being a shy kid, but having this calling to help people. What instilled that calling? Was it a relative? Was it, talking about God? Was it church? Was it what pulled this shy kid out of Apex, North Carolina to make him be someone who wanted to be a shining light for people who needed help?
I would say, of course, God knows the destiny already, but he puts people around you. And I had a really strong lieutenant at the time, and he would always say, hey, I'm going to enroll you into this class, this training, and go for it. And I'd be like, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. He was like, no, you can do it. And it was just things like that, and just really trying. And I told a story about the skate park and how just everything I looked at was a lesson. And seeing skateboarders, they want to master this one trick, and they try over and over and over again. They fall and they get back up. And I had many of those moments along the way. It wasn't easy, and I've embarrassed myself, several times, but it didn't stop my journey, and it didn't stop my will to get things done. But I think people encouraging me, and they see something that maybe, I can't see, or the people that are really, that grew up with you and they're around you. I found that those people often can't really see your destiny either. They see you as what they believe you should be because they know who you were at that time. And so it's people outside of that group are people who encourage me to say, no, I see something bigger.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
because they see you as that 16-year-old, 26-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever, whenever that period of time that you were really involved with them. That's so true. Yeah, you really need to just break through that, right? And it sounds like you surrounded yourself with mentors and leaders. I'm amazed I'm curious about how you are able to accomplish things, because it sounds like even when you were an officer, the skate park story really struck me, because that's something that a lot of people wouldn't take on, right? So you found some sort of like internal dedication to making that happen, and took it from like theory to reality. And that's where a lot of people struggle in their personal lives, in business, in their spiritual life, whatever aspect of their life, right? I know I do, but I'll say that I do personally, right? From taking things from that level to it being a reality. Do you think that there's something that you can put your finger on that you do, or how you conduct yourself, like to get those things done, that maybe is the secret that we don't all know? I mean, I know that's a tough question, but is there something that you do that you think is different, that you can pinpoint that what other people have done in your spot previously, right? As an officer, as a mayor, as a kid in school, with your peer pressure going on. I mean, because I've been there,
Oh yeah. Man, there's many things to that. One thing I will say is I try to look beyond what people think about each other. Like, take out the bias. Like, if someone gives me information, they say, hey, that Ben guy, man, he's mean, he's rude, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I say, okay, that's fine, but I want to get to know Ben myself.
Right.
And I want to push out, I want to push through that and really get to know you. And the reason I bring that up is there's so many things that are put out, misinformation and just things about people, and it becomes a reality to some. But there's a small amount of people that say, no, I don't know. I think I should really find out for myself. And that's what I've always tried to do. The skate park story, I didn't have any interest in skateboarding. That wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I want to get to know this guy and why is skateboarding so important to him. That's why I turned around in the car and went back. Like, there's something to this. And I think those moments you really have to capture, because if you don't, you miss an opportunity. It's all about the timing. And I've just been able to recognize the timing of things and try to get to know people and what really is important to them, not me. But when I take care of people, it seems to kind of come back, 100-fold, that I get benefits from it.
Right.
I look out for other people, and then I get taken care of.
Yeah.
It's worked out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to always come back to you tenfold or something,
That's right.
That's fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
And truly a fantastic moral of a story. I mean, that really being just genuinely a good person does pay off, even without looking for a payoff.
That's right.
So, what better moral of a story could you put out? What better theme of life could you put out than that?
That's right.
It's tough to listen, be an active listener sometimes, because a lot of people, I think for me, when I'm listening to a story, I'm thinking about how I'm going to respond instead of just sitting there and listening to the person talk.
That's it.
And soaking it in, right? I'm thinking about how I'm going to respond to the person.
That's right.
What I'm going to say when you're done talking. What's the next question I'm going to ask the mayor, right? And so that becomes a roadblock.
Right.
And I love that, because I've never thought of it as like removing the bias or the gossip, right? Because somebody comes to you and they say, Mike did this and this in the past, and well, maybe Mike's changed what he used to do in the past. I mean, I don't think there's a person alive who didn't make a mistake, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, people deserve second, third, maybe
That's right.
4 chances. Maybe they need 10 before they straighten out. Maybe they never straighten out, but that's okay, right?
Well, and that goes along with social media. It's such a blessing, but it's also a curse.
Mm-hmm.
And people will be quick to just put a nugget out there, and a lot of people just take it and run with it and believe it's the gospel, it's the truth, and oftentimes it's not. And that's why it's so important to get outside of that and really have a sit down conversation with people and get to know who they are, and you may gain something from it, or you will gain something from it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the point of this conversation, is we want people both who live in Apex, but I would love people to see this and say, maybe Apex, North Carolina is a place for me. If they've got a guy like that leading at that town, that's where I want to live. And so, that's kind of where this conversation was the idea of it, was to just put out one positive golden nugget for someone. That's enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, with that, this is the place, all those who are watching, this is the place to come, and I've really seen it evolve, and we're not done. But it's the people. I really mean what I say. It's the people. It's not Jacques Gilbert. It's not just the staff. It's everybody working together. I truly believe that, and everybody has their own thing, and you combine them, and then we do dynamic things, incredible things, and that's how we got to look at it. Every person in this community has something to contribute, and I want to know what it is.
Right.
I really do. I want to know
great.
what, and I want to be that person that encourages them. Maybe they think it's not, oh man, I can't contribute. I'm just over here doing this. No, you're part of the team, and we need you to contribute to continue to make Apex the people that live in.
Yeah. I love that.
Truly.
You, what does your day look like? I'm just curious. Like, what is your day like from morning until night? I know you said you run like a 15-minute schedule. Is that what you do? Like in your calendar, you have a 15-minute schedule. Like, what time do you wake up? I've never been in the military or in the police or anything with that kind of discipline. Mike was in the military, and obviously you were a police officer.
Yes.
So I never had that. I have a different type of self-discipline, but I'm just curious to hear what your daily routine looks like so you can perform to that level.
Yes. Well, my daily routine is I get up every morning and try to read something encouraging, if it's the Bible or a motivational book, a piece of that. But getting up early in the morning, getting that in, and then I have my day carved out. I try to work out 4 days a week, so I go hit the gym in the morning, get that done. I feel sharper once I go to the gym and then get into things. But after that, it's just, hourly things to do. Sometimes, depending on how long the meeting or engagement is, it could go 2 or 3 hours. But it could start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it may not end till 9 p.m. at night. Because I really want to make sure I take care of people, because there's calls along the way. People send emails. I tell them, from the start, I want to respond to your email, to your complaint, your concern, but no, I want to talk to you. Can I have a conversation with you? I don't really do well with returning emails, because I think a lot gets lost in that, and you might like receive it differently than what I intended. So, so most of my day is just really talking to people and hearing their concerns.
So you had a meeting that went from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
Well,
you have meetings that go from that.
No. What I'm saying is, like, I start at 6 a.m. and sometimes I might
okay.
until 9 p.m. No, that would be a big meeting.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
That's
that was a meeting with the governor and the president the same day. Yeah. No.
Right.
But no. It's just many days will start out at 6 and go till 9, and it's exhausting sometimes, but I'm still fulfilled by it. I really love being in this role, in this assignment. And
it's supposed to be a part-time job, is what you said.
I know, man. That's what they say.
They always say that.
They say that.
It's not.
And to be honest, man, I couldn't make it a part-time thing, but that's just not who I am. I mean, that goes back to military. Your structure. You get called to an assignment, you're going to go in 100%, and that's what I do. Yeah. And my family understands that, and they encourage me to continue to do that, and I just want to continue to show up.
They don't get tired of somebody, people running up to you during dinner. You're just trying to go to Salem Street.
They used to. They really gotten used to that. That started with the police department, and we'd be at the mall or wherever, and Walmart. Somebody.
We used to be the safety officer at Apex High Schools.
That's right.
How long was that assignment?
That was a 6-year assignment.
Okay, so you met a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of people during that time.
That's right. Because when you deal with a person's kid, you get to know the parent too, and you gain the confidence of the parent.
Yeah.
And
you had all those votes.
Yes.
All of those votes. I mean, I know some people who that was how they knew you.
Yeah. That's right. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
And I mean that just to go on off of that, you wanting to help people and give Apex a full time. Why Apex? I mean, I know obviously you were born here, but when you were looking at being a cop, was it ever NC State Trooper, Raleigh PD? Did you ever want to say, I can help Apex, but could I help North Carolina? Why did you go macro or micro?
That's a good question, Mike. So here's a real story about that. My intent was really to start with Apex Police. I was going to work there for 2 years. I had it all laid out, 2 years. And I said, after 2 years, I'm transitioning to the Highway Patrol, the North Carolina Highway Patrol. For this reason. They had cool uniforms and a big hat.
Yep.
That was the only reason,
It's a good hat.
That was it.
It's a good reason.
Yeah. And so that same, he was a sergeant at the time, became a lieutenant. He said, Jacques, you leaving just for that? And I said, yeah. He said, you're leaving just for that? I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And then he said, man, look at Apex 10 years from now, 20 years. Do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to walk away from it? He said, because you can be a part of the success of Apex. And that just really caught my attention.
And that guy had a big impact on your life, right?
He did.
Yeah.
He was my first training officer, John Kissinger, and we still talk today.
Nice.
Yeah. He's at the beach now. He's in Dare County.
Yeah. I mean, it's to have someone like that, though, to put you not only on a path, but then to stay there with you the whole time and really show you, what their perspective was. Because, I mean, we have all our own perspective, I mean, I know what I think Mike DeMore looks like 10 years from now, but
Yes.
I can tell you it's not the same thing my grandmother thinks Mike DeMore looks like 10 years. She's still waiting for me to come back to New York.
Right,
So
right.
that's, everyone has a different perspective of us, and to have that outside and kind of unbiased perspective of what we could do for a community. And he saw, I would argue, he saw you 30 years later running for mayor and really impacting Apex, North Carolina. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how he saw that, but I'm glad he was able to see something that I couldn't see. And I think that's the role of a mayor, and I think that's also a role of everybody involved in the community. Sometimes you have to be that person to help others see what they might not can see with their own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to continue to do in this role.
Yeah.
With the vision of Apex and where we could go.
Yeah. Lead by example, right?
Yes,
And
that's
they'll
right.
follow.
That's
I
it.
mean, yeah.
There's much to do.
It seems like you're very effective at networking people together to make things happen and putting the resources in place. I know for me, my wife is awesome at doing that.
She is.
Nina is.
Yes, she is. She has a reputation for that. For
One
sure.
of the best at putting things together.
Yes.
And also, and we plan on interviewing her, but I will say
I can't wait
there's
to
a
watch
lot
that.
of similar personality traits, and the way that y'all operate is very similar. Like, she signs all her emails, "Your biggest cheerleader, Nina,"
Oh,
to the
love it.
agents,
Oh, man, I
right? So
love
when
that.
she sends it out to all 185 agents, it's "Your biggest cheerleader, Nina." Right? And that's what she is. It's not, when people come to the company and she's recruiting them, it's not like, "Hey, join the town of Apex staff."
Right.
We might not even talk about that. It's like, what do you want to accomplish and how would you like to help? Where do you fit in that whole puzzle of, how many departments are there in the town of Apex, right?
Yeah.
And people want her to run for mayor.
I've been asking her. I was going to ask her why won't she consider it, but tell her I need one more term, okay? But she would definitely rock it, no question.
Yeah.
But the thing about that, Ben, you talk about Nina, and people can see, like I say this all the time, people can see a facade or fakeness. They can see it.
Yeah.
She's authentic.
Yeah.
People know that's real,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I want people to see me. I don't want to fit a mold. I just want to be Jacques,
Right.
and I think that's how you two are. I can tell that. It's an instant reveal to me when I first met you. So I think that gets people's attention quickly, and I wanted to kind of bring that to the table.
I wanted to
Talk
wear a
about
suit
Nina.
coat so bad today, man. And I put it on, and I was like, you know what?
You
just
rocking that.
because I knew I was just like, man, okay, I'll put the sweater on because that's like I can still be comfortable, but the suit coat, I just
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I go around with these gold shoes on, and
Yeah.
and people were like, "Man, that's so corny." I was like, "Okay, that's fine, but that's me. This is what I want to do."
Yeah.
And it's worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just always tell people, just be yourself.
I love
do
the
it.
gold
Just-
shoes. I'm a shoe guy, so I love
You love the gold shoes,
Oh,
my
yeah.
man. I'm gonna have to get you a pair.
Yeah, I
There
love
you
it.
go.
I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
those are awesome. There's a number on the shoes.
That's
What is
right.
that number?
Yes, number 32. So I had that embroidered on the shoe, and 32nd mayor of Apex.
Okay.
So since 1873, I'm 32.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here we are.
That is impressive. To talk about, I keep hearing that line you said, shy kid from Apex, North Carolina, and now you're out there. Your Facebook profile, everything, you're so now in the public eye,
Yes.
and in such a positive way. Like, just here in Beaver Creek, we have the accident that happened on the Beaver Creek roundabout, and that those bricks were down for quite a little bit there. And that's how I actually got introduced to your Facebook page, was your
Oh,
post saying,
okay.
I understand the call here, and we're getting it done. And in 3 days, bricks were laid.
Yeah.
Truly an impressive and positive impact in knowing what's going on in your community.
Thank you.
That's what called me to you. And
Oh,
so
wow.
meeting you was, for me, that post really was like, this is the guy who, in 3 days, saw an issue and had it fixed.
Thank you so much. And I tell you, man, those bricks did bother me too. I'm like, what is going on? What is going on here? But it is that like connection to people. That's why I think social media is a blessing in that sense, because it allowed people to really see we can get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a matter of just, we got to work together. And I can't help fix anything I don't know about, you know, and I always, you know, make sure that's out there, that message is to people as well.
Yeah.
So tell me what's on your mind, tell me what you're seeing, and let's try to work together.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm not the only mayor of Apex. Like, you're a mayor too. Like, this is your town. I truly believe that, like, you don't choose your community, the community chooses you. Like, the town chooses you. That this is why you're here. And you're here for a purpose. I don't know how long that time is, but you're here for a time. You can, like, effectuate change and move us forward. And then I hand the baton off to Nina or whoever else. Mike, whoever wants it, yeah. Getting you ready, man.
That's it, yeah.
It's 3,500 people in Apex while we were growing up. Was it that? Was it that few people?
Yeah. I remember a sign, and I was probably younger, maybe around 10. So, but I remember that sign. I'll never forget it. And now we're at 70. Well, it was 73,500 in April. So I'm sure it's way more than that now.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, Kerry better watch out.
Yeah.
Apex is creeping up on him.
No doubt.
And what is, I mean, being here that whole time, both of you, I mean, I was, you know, from New York, so you guys got to watch from 3,500 to a 200% or 200 times increase. What was that change? Was it gradual? Was there a moment where you guys got to watch Apex? It just, the switch was flipped. You know, what called Apex's growth and progression and people to go, that is not just a saying, that is the peak of good living?
I'll let Ben
I
start.
think it happened all around us too, so it was kind of gradual, but I always felt like Apex managed it a little bit better than the other neighboring communities. You know, Apex was a quiet little farming town that had some, you know, residential neighborhoods that were popping up. You know, my dad was one of the first people that built a house over here in Castlewood across the street.
Oh, yeah,
this land
Castlewood.
here was my friend Mike McAllister. So these, like where we are right now was my playground, right? We'd ride three-wheelers back then through the woods and you know, hunt and fish and do whatever we were doing. Apex was just the place. I mean, we are, you know, we're 12 minutes from the airport.
That's right.
Internet, you can fly somewhere. If you want to take vacation or go somewhere, you just go to the international airport, right?
That's right.
So, I mean, that's my perspective, and I always felt like it was just managed better here. You know, the growth was steady, and they never let it get to a point where it was mismanaged.
Right.
You know, by whoever was in charge at that time. I don't, you know, didn't really pay attention when I was younger.
Right. Well, we had a lot of great people that were a part of the success that we see today, and I often bring that out because I'm like, no, don't look at me. It's the people that came before me that set us up for success. And very much like you said, Apex is always a place. But do you remember when people would say, "Hey, where you from?" And you was like, "Oh, I'm from Raleigh." People used to say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't want to say I'm from a small town Apex. But now it's shifted. Everybody's so proud to say I'm from Apex, North Carolina. And yeah, it's been managed well, but you could see it just starting to really expand. I would say early 2000s, like you could really see that growth coming. And then of course we fast forward to 2015, and you know, Money Magazine put us out there as the best place to live.
Number one
best place to live in America, and that is a wrap.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody's like, I got to get to that place, and here we are, and it's accelerated big time. And what we have to do now is, as it's been managed well before, we really got to figure out a better way and continue to work toward keeping it that way, managed well.
I like that.
Yeah.
And what, just going off that, what do you see, you know, I won't hold you to anything or give anything away, but what do you see for Apex in, say, the next decade, 2 decades? What does Apex look like to you?
I would say, while it is about Apex, you know, obviously I'm the mayor, I'm the champion for Apex, but to really look at things and the accelerated growth, as you mentioned, it's really the region. It's not just Apex alone. So Apex can't go into it with, hey, here's our plan, and this is the only thing that can work. It's got to be all mayors working together to say, hey, this is a regional situation because there are challenges that come with it from that point. So we got to work together to figure it out. Now, Apex may have their own unique circumstances, but really the challenges are all the same. When you look at transportation, affordability, you look at environmental impacts, all that impacts a region, you know, because we're all connected. And we have to figure it out that way. So the answer is, one thing, communication. And communicate to the people. That's one thing that I ran on. We do a horrible job at putting information out, because when you don't put information out, you're not going to receive anything back. I think we got to improve that, which is why I'm such a big fan of social media, and my daughter has done a pretty decent job with that.
Yeah,
but I want to
really
get us
good job.
better with not just me, but the town of Apex and what they put out. And that's still a work in progress. But if we can put that out and really get more people to buy in and get involved, that's what we need. We need more people involved with what we're doing. Because again, I go back to what I said before, we're missing out on someone that has that solution that we haven't found yet. There are many things I'll say right now, I don't have a solution to everything, but it's out there in the community. We just haven't found it yet. So if I can just connect with that individual, or those individuals that can say, hey, have you thought about this? Oh, that's a great idea. And then we do it. That's where I'm at with things.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I actually read an interview preparing for this, just to kind of get some background on you. And you had mentioned in that interview that you will listen to not just the 70-year-old who's been in politics, been in the community, but you want to hear from the 16-year-old. You want to hear from the 20-year-old they don't even know what major they're going into yet, but they might have an idea that is just profound.
Oh, true. Yeah, everyone has something to contribute, and from young to young at heart, everybody can be involved, and the answer is there. I often go out to the high schools. I was just at Apex Friendship Middle School this morning, just out there talking to kids and just really listening. I was like, gosh, man, they're so intelligent. A 12-year-old in 2022 is much different than a 12-year-old years ago, right?
My son goes there. He just turned 14, and some of the stuff he tells me is incredible.
Oh man, we're set up well. Our future's bright with the youth we have today. But again, getting the wisdom from those that are young at heart, and then hearing the innovation and ideas from young people, it just motivates me more to want to sit in this seat and do the best I can to help people. So yeah, I will listen to anyone. I think that's where it starts, and then we go from there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we mentioned a little bit of just some challenges. You meant communication and whatnot. Do you think the challenges that Apex face today, have they changed from when you first took office, or are you thinking it's still kind of the same? Do you find over the 3 years that you've been mayor, have there been new challenges that have arisen, or do you find the old ones that you're trying to really batter down?
Yes, the challenges are still there, and while we have been able to extinguish some fires, if you will, those fires will come back up, and we just have to look at long-term solutions. And I'll give you one that's really near and dear to my heart. I really want to accomplish this, and one of the things you have to realize in the world of politics, some people may not look at things the same. They may have different agendas. They may have a desire to actually please a group of people versus not pleasing this group of people. I'm looking at everybody in Apex as a whole. I'm looking at economic vitality. I'm looking at affordability. I'm looking at it all. And how does this help every individual in our town to thrive and reach their peak? That's what I'm looking at. Not just for you, but for everyone. There's a project downtown. It's the downtown plan. You may have seen it. It was approved in officially 2021. And what we want to do is, really look at our streetscape and make things better, make it more inviting and warming that people come down and really enjoy themselves downtown Apex. And then also energizing the alleyways, like art and just illuminating things in the alleyway. And then here's the big one, add parking to downtown. Because if people are frustrated and can't find a parking space, what are they going to do?
Right.
They're going to keep going. They're going to go to another town. We don't want that. I would really like to accomplish a parking deck downtown Apex. I really want to see it. And it could be done well. It don't have to be the traditional looking parking deck. They have really, putting that, the facade can look very well. It looks like it's just another building. I think that's a long-term solution. What I really get frustrated by is how we just oftentimes just say, okay, let's just do this for today. But in 2 years, we're going to be back there again, saying, okay, we got to find another solution. So it's things like that that I'm trying to get done. The communication piece, things like this, we should be doing. Like sitting down and talking about things. Transparency is a word that's thrown around a lot by politicians, city leaders, town influencers. But are you really being transparent? Because if you are, you're going to tell some things that we really need to improve on as well. You're not just going to give out the good stuff.
Right.
You're going to tell when things are not going well. Because people need to hear it all. A person told me this once, and it's always stuck with me. Everyone can accept the truth. They might not like it, but they can accept it.
Right.
But what they can accept is you not being honest. And upfront and transparent. No one can accept that.
And sometimes that can be omission of, like,
That's correct.
sometimes not being honest can be you not talking about it, right?
That's it. Yes.
I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I understand that if you don't talk about it, that can also be construed as
That's right.
not as a lie or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How many parking spots do we need? Did they do a study on that?
They did a
How many
study.
parking spots and how many stories would that building need to be? Do you like?
Yeah. I don't have those numbers as far as like how many parking spaces we need. But I know this. The study was done. We hired a consultant, and that was done. They started that process in 2018 prior to me becoming the mayor.
Yeah.
A lot of stakeholders involved, a lot of people input. But here's the reality about consultants. I want to put this out there. A consultant will build anything you want based on what you want to see. It may not be what is absolutely needed or necessary. So I do want to point that out. But here's what they identified. There's not a parking problem downtown. That's what they identified. Well, that's not true. That's just what they researched and found on their own. Those are people who came in for a period of time and then they left. Okay?
Yeah.
You got to really get down to the people who live and work here. And by the way, that own businesses down there. And you got to talk to them and really understand where they're coming from. The business owners down there need parking to survive. As far as the downtown plan, what we approved, we're adding probably another 60 or 70 parking spaces with the current plan once that's done. And the problem is we have 2 properties owned by private residents that they want to check for. And I wish we would have wrote that check 3 years ago. I tried to encourage people to do that. They didn't want to do it. So, you know what happened?
I know one of them.
Yeah. So that happened, and now,
Which would be a great spot.
oh my goodness, yes.
That spot would be ideal.
Oh gosh, yes. So what happened is, couldn't come to terms. And so what the town decided to do, and I've been very vocal about this, in total opposition, they decided to eminent domain the properties. It's now illegal, and which may take more time
And money. Yep.
Okay. Now, here's the big piece that we missed. I'm gonna say I saw it coming, but there's a guy that built a nice sized building. It's called the Highline Building. It's a 3-story building right there on Salem Street.
Right.
By the way, he paid a little over $1 million for it. He built this nice building, retail, and also he's gonna put employees in there he's relocate from another state. My understanding could be from 40 to 70 employees. So now you add that, let's just say it is 70. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
That's it.
That's it. You're back at capacity again.
Right.
Yeah, you've reached your capacity. So my thing is, let's pivot from the plan. Sometimes you have to pivot. And let's really dig down and say, okay, what do we need long term?
Yeah.
And let's build a parking deck. So there are people here that are ready to do a public-private partnership, invest in it, and say, we want to help build it. And by the way, the guy that built the Highline building, he wants to be a part of that.
Oh, nice.
It's really easy.
He needs it to rent out space.
Yeah.
He needs
That's
it.
one of the reasons we chose this building versus one of the others. I think we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Versus the place over near JD's. It was,
Yeah.
we didn't have enough parking.
Yeah.
When we have someone of your caliber show up for team meeting, I mean, how many people is here? If it's 100 people, it doesn't matter. If it's 80 people,
Yeah.
like, it fills up. I mean, it's like when we have anything minor going on downtown Apex, the parking will be full.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
We need it. And
and I used to work. Our office was downtown Apex, so we would sit there and we'd look out the window and watch people try to park, and it was almost. I mean, it was entertaining, but also scary. There was a lot of like fender bumping going on, a little tap, and
I'm glad you
mirrors
brought it up.
missing. And,
I know, really.
Yeah.
I took like a few crash reports there as a police officer. But another thing you mentioned is the parallel parking on Salem Street. Part of the plan is to remove that, so because you expand the sidewalk. So now you're moving that parking from the mix. You got to add more.
We're getting off on the traffic thing, but like I always wonder who owns the middle of I mean, that's a highway technically.
Yeah.
Salem Street is
Yeah.
old US 1,
That's
so
correct.
that's regulated by NCDOT.
Yeah.
So those middle two lanes can't really be messed with. They need that, right? I mean,
Yeah. So correct. So we can only go to the outside of where the parking is. So that's where the sidewalks will expand to.
yeah,
That makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, very.
So yeah, it's really and going to my New York friend here, you often hear the stories like, what got you to Apex? Because I always ask that question. And man, a lot of people say, I was here visiting, I went downtown Apex, and I got to move here.
I fell in love.
I fell in love, and then they call Nina and her team
Mm-hmm.
and say, I need a house.
Yeah.
That's not, and so I'm really serious about downtown Apex. I mean, it is as what has been called by many a crown jewel that we have in our town. So we gotta take care of the people that keep it that way.
Right.
And that's our business owners.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, downtown Apex is gorgeous, and you could spend the whole day there just going shop to shop. We start at scratch, have your brunch there, and find your way, end the day with some ice cream at Fresh. So you really can do everything just on downtown Salem.
Yeah.
And actually, that's where I take friends of mine when they come to visit me. And now I've got one, he's thinking I'm going to move from Massachusetts. He's a cop in Massachusetts, and he took me to downtown Salem. And he's like, maybe I might be a cop in Apex, you know what I mean?
So he's a cop in Massachusetts now.
Mm-hmm.
Give him my number.
Okay.
We're gonna recruit him.
Okay.
I'm being serious.
Okay.
I'm being serious.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay. All right.
And you get a sale. There you go. That's why we're doing this, Mike.
This is it.
This is it.
That's
This is the whole
it. This is it.
for the
Boom.
for the podcast.
Yeah,
Just
man.
go Apex, buy one right
And you
here.
get a get out of jail free card.
That's true.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me think who I know. We can. Oh man. Wow.
That's it. That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes, man.
great. And so, I mean, yeah, it's just watching Apex grow and things just like that, getting someone who wants to, he loves Massachusetts, his family's there, but when he comes here and he sees Apex for 4 days, he didn't spend a month here, he didn't get an Airbnb and try to immerse himself here. 4 days was all it took for him to say, yeah, okay, probably coming.
Right.
And I mean, that this place, if you want to talk about a crowning jewel, I mean, a jewel pulls you. And Apex
no
really
doubt.
just pulls you.
Mhm.
You look at it for a brief second, and that glimmer is all it takes to. All right, that's it. That's
Yes.
Back to what he said, it's the people, man. Like
Yeah.
Yes,
people
sir.
like us who grew up here, we look you in the eye and say hello when we're walking down the street, even if
That's
you
right.
don't
That's
respond.
Mm,
That's
I mean,
right.
I walk around Lake Pine Trail every day, and I say good morning to everyone. And there's some guys, headphones, sunglasses, with the hoodie up. Good morning, and after 8 or 9 or 10 times of doing that, they crack a smile.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
They can't help it, man. It's infectious. And like we grew up in an environment where everybody kind of loved and helped each other.
All day. Yeah. No
Um,
matter where you look like, what you like, where you come from, everybody was just about helping
Yeah.
each other. Really. Do you remember Beasley's Grocery downtown?
Beasley's Grocery.
Yeah, it was like a feed store. Just
I remember it, but I never went there because we would just go to Pete's Cash and Carry.
Okay.
Because he would sell us stuff he wasn't supposed to sell us at that age. But not to get into too much detail, but that was like the local farmer hangout, and,
Got it.
and my buddy,
Yeah.
and then but yeah. Why? What was your connection to that?
No. It's just part of that old
Yeah.
Apex and downtown. But interesting story about like speaking to everyone. So I got to tell you this cool. When I was a training officer at Apex Police Department, we have like a lot of guys from New York who retire from New York and they come here and to work, like get a second pension. So you train them like, okay, so I'm gonna show you the ropes and then you're gonna drive around. So New York guys, like they be driving around and in Apex, people like wave at the police and they like, wait a minute, I gotta turn around in that car. I'm like, what are you doing? Like they just waved at me. They gotta be up to something. I was like, no. They're chill.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But it's true.
But it's true. Yeah. Like they must be up to something, man. They waving. They speaking to me. No. That's just good old Apex hospitality.
It was interesting. I think I had a different perspective than most people who grew up Apex native, because when we grew up, back to the no bias and equality and everything. So my bus went through Justice Heights, and so a lot of my friends lived in there, right? And also the period that I lived in Durham from 7 to 12 was a single mother in an area that was off of East Cornwallis Road that was for lack of better terms, like I was the minority,
right?
And it was a poor area, right? So we didn't have a lot, but man, we would make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I moved to Apex, there was still that racial divide going on to an extent, like especially when we go to school with some of the guys who lived a little bit further out in the county, right? And it just shocked me, and that went away so quick in my mind, like that. Apex has become this melting pot of diversity and different opinions and perspectives, and I always enjoyed that change, right? From the beginning, like I thrived in that environment, and always I love meeting interesting people, different people from different areas. Somebody from New York, I want to hear. I could talk with Mike for. we haven't talked enough. This is one of the things we plan on doing, is just sitting down and talking and getting to know each other's history. But awesome. I think that's what the draw is, right? Is like we've become this different town since that time. That was like the way of thinking was different back then, and now we're this like awesome we've still kept that little town feel to an extent, but the people here are what make the difference. And even though you come from New York, we're going to rub off on you, man.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know?
And I will say, actually, I love that concept, because I think when you think of people leaving, maybe New York or California and going to other places, sometimes you hear a negative rhetoric about that. But in reality, being here, I have found such an accepting and also kind of we didn't come here and change Apex. Apex changed us. Like I'm here and I'm a different person than I was 2 years ago. Yeah, I truly am. I mean, if I had to say there's two things that have drastically changed me, personality-wise, it was one, joining the Army at 18. I mean, that was a culture shock if I ever met one. But then really coming back, getting out of the Army, going back to New York for the holidays, and then jumping to Apex with both feet in the water. And it truly was. I mean, I'd say I'm a different person than I was 2 years ago. And it's the culture of Apex has really done that.
Yeah. That's the first time I heard that.
We had friends who moved from to California and came back. And the reason they came back was because they felt like the only reason they would be friends with you or spend any time with you is if there was something for them in the relationship.
Oh man.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you go down to again, Fort Lauderdale, right, it's just the financial line. There's the rich and the poor, right? So there's the rich and there's the wealthy and the poor, and there doesn't seem to be too much of a middle line. And so what's available, the opportunity there, it just looks different.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't know. That's the way they've managed it. But again, I feel like Apex is so balanced. That's the place for me. I want it to be balanced.
Yes.
And every once in a while, if somebody from New York, they honk the horn a little bit too aggressive. It's okay.
I won't change that much. I still will honk the horn if you cut me off.
See, he's the guy right there.
Yes. No, it is a beautiful thing to see diversity here, and like you said, it's increasing more and more.
Yeah.
Like you can walk around Lake Pine or walk downtown and just hear the different accents and languages. I mean, it's cool. It's really cool to get that experience. But you talked about the people. Like, Apex is going to change. As far as geography, it's going to change. We can't stop the growth. We can't stop the growth. And growth is not necessarily a bad thing. I tell people that all the time. Mm-hmm. But we got to manage it. But here's the deal. It's the experience of Apex that people want and they love. And it's the people that bring those experiences. That's what we have. But I have to hear you say this, because you said Apex has changed you. Mm-hmm. Can you say y'all?
I can say y'all. I will say it's one of those things we make a joke. We make a joke. Me and my New York friends. It is the one thing I will say, because my New York friends will joke, and obviously, like, people will say here, like, I have an accent, and so, but I'll go back home and they're like, you sound a little different. Yeah. And I will say, y'all is the one thing that doesn't sound necessarily right when I say it, but
you got a country accent.
Yeah,
New York now, man.
Yeah, that's it. It is though. I mean, it's more efficient. You all is 2 words. Y'all is 1. It's more efficient. You want to talk about time management? I'm saving 0.3 seconds by saying y'all. You guys you've made a more efficient word, so I've got to adopt it.
Well, I'm gonna say one for you. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
That's
cool?
it. That's
perfect.
That's good.
That's it.
In Ohio, my extended family, they say "use guys," and they always ask. First thing they ask me when I show up is, "Can you say y'all?" Right? they want to hear me say it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So I get a lot of people say, "There's no way you're from Apex. You don't have an accent." I actually think I do.
Yeah.
On some words, maybe.
Yeah. I guess when you think of a Southern accent, there's some that are much more profound than others, and so I have found that Apex's accent it is subtle. It's not a very drawn out. No one talks necessarily slower or faster. It's just a very kind of a modern accent.
Depends on who I'm hanging out with. Yeah. I've got a friend from Virginia mountains. My buddy Chance. When I'm with him, I talk his language, and you can barely understand what he's saying half the time. Sorry, Chance, but it's true, man. He'll leave me a voicemail, and I'm like, let me call you back. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's like now the Apple transcription for voicemails, it's like, sorry, we can't transcribe it. You know what I mean?
But we understand each other.
That's right.
You know, that's what matters,
that's
right?
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we've talked about just about everything that I wanted to hit on. One thing I really do want to point out, though, is we talked about the future of Apex. And we talked even a little bit about the future of North Carolina and surrounding areas. But what is the future for Mayor Jacques Gilbert? What do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you still want to do mayor? Do you want to find another role? Do you want to, have you looked at anything going up the ladder? Are you looking at state senator? Are you looking at governor? What is the next for Mayor Jacques Gilbert?
I would say you just got to wait and see. I don't know. I really don't. I just... When an assignment calls me, I just go for it. And right now, I'm being led to stay here and see what develops.
Yeah.
I won't rule anything out. I've been approached by several people to consider some things, but I haven't made a decision on anything.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's good of an answer as we can ask for right now. Yeah.
But I love my hometown, and I'll always champion Apex and do everything I can to take care of it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I will say is no matter what your next role is, I'm certain it will be a positive one.
Thank you.
So that was just this past hour we've had here together was enlightening. And
thank you. I've enjoyed myself here.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much for carving out that time for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always awesome to hear from another influencer in the community, and I think there's some aha moments in there for all of us to take away. And I've got to ask one more question. And so before I left the house today, I said, Nina, if you were going to ask the mayor one question, what would you ask him? And she said, ask him who you should interview next. Okay?
Oh, wow.
So I want you might not have that answer. It may change, but if you think of someone that we could have on the podcast next, that would be awesome.
All right. I will do that. I will commit to that.
Okay.
I think I can give you a good person.
Awesome.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Okay.
Appreciate it.
No, Ben, Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Sir. Thank
you. Thank you, Mayor Jacques.
I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right.
Thank you.